You're listening to the Jaybird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansided.com. We are the official ballroom chat for everything Toronto Blue Jays baseball, from game highlights to rumors and all the stuff in between. Here's your host, Craig Borden, with co-hosts Jason Lyons and Liz McGuire. Now let's talk some Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another evening of Jaybird Watching. Already way too many of you in the chat already, so good to see all of you. Happy baseball day. Happy first place, all the good stuff. As things go, we are going to be talking all things Toronto Blue Jays baseball and having some fun tonight. But first things first, Jason and Liz is actually back on the docket today.
All right, I've been absent. I'm good. I'm really good. I've been absent, just doing stuff. I will say I was just telling the lads, I had my 4 of my nieces and nephews by myself last week, ages 8 to 11, and I had to get them to baseball practice last week, and so I did that. I held it down. So I was a fake single mom, but like it was fun. We got to go all to see my nephew play some baseball games, and he was pretty amped up that all of his cousins were there. So it was nice. It's nice to see children playing baseball and being competitive but fun and nice. So that's slapped. So I've been good, man. I've just been good.
And speaking of amping it up for Little League, Jason sporting all the North Shore stuff. How we doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is the season. We are no longer Little League. We are BC Minor, but it is similar. We have the provincials starting on Thursday. So we qualified in third place, which we were a little surprised about. But I mean, it's an unbelievably talented group of kids that I have the unbelievable fortune of coaching. So we're heading teeth long into it starting tomorrow at opening ceremonies and then games every day all the way through to the end of Sunday. Winner of that goes back and does it all again against a higher level. We have a split at BC Minor where there's PBL teams and then there's BC Minor teams. So the PBL teams are just slightly better. But I mean, if we were to play, the North Shore Twins 6 times, it'd probably be, 4 wins for them and 2 for us. Like it's not. You're not getting murdered by these guys. And Travis, you can probably attest to this, in a 1-game play-in, I mean, anything can happen. You hit a hot pitcher, you hit a hot, your bats are hot, you can take down anybody. So I'm just fired up about it. And of course, we've got Travis here. So that's what all the people are doing.
You just keep running with that intro, bud. You're right there with it. Just go for it.
Don't kid yourself. Those people are not here to see us. The high numbers that are they're here to see this guy down here.
Yep. So Travis Snider obviously joining the show once again since we realized that you actually are the owner of a Major League Baseball record, Mr. Fake Mustache Home Run. How the heck are you?
I'm doing good. Like I told you guys before the show, got to spend 2 days back up in Toronto. Got to see Russell Martin, Ricky Romero, Justin Smoke, Marco Estrada, Cito Gaston, a bunch of the old coaches and players. So really good opportunity to get out on the golf course, raise money for a really special program that they put together for the Jays Care. I heard they raised over 22-something million since their inception for building fields across the country of Canada. So just to be a part of something like that and to get a chance to hang out with your boys, get out in the city, summertime in Toronto is tough to beat. So I'm just grateful they invited me up there and I got to see everybody.
Yeah, win-win all the way around, bud. So the best question I guess we have for you is, how did your golf game go?
The tournament itself, I would say I give myself like a C. I had some really good shots, just inconsistent. When you play in the scramble format, it's always like the first couple holes of getting to know each other's personality and who has the strengths in certain areas. And then it took us about 4 or 5 holes to find our groove, and we finished birdie. I think we're 6 under on the tournament. So for a scramble, nothing to brag about, but had some great guys in my group and really enjoyed getting to know them over 18 holes.
There you
awesome.
go.
What's it like when the gang gets back together? Do you guys hang out? Do you guys keep it? Is there a group chat in between? What's the gossip?
We didn't get the group chat fired up, but Ricky and I came through the minor leagues together. He's like a brother to me. Russ and I played together in Pittsburgh and became very close and have maintained contact. So you get together. It's kind of like old times. You're going out to dinners, you're going out for drinks. We don't have to worry about hitting left-handed slider the next day. So it takes a little bit of the pressure off just to go enjoy the city and not worry about somebody seeing you out too late or doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So does the golf game carry over like my golf game from my baseball playing days? It's still the mantra I cannot get out when I'm on a golf course, and it's the swing hard in case you hit it. So
yeah,
that's still my mantra.
For context, I hit left-handed in baseball. Dad started me right-handed in golf, and it was very challenging making that transition out of being a baseball player, trying to become a golfer. And so it took me a few years. I invested in an indoor golf facility up here in the Seattle area, so I had access to some really good instruction and just being around guys who understand golf. So over the last 2 years, my handicap has gone down. I've touched below double digits. I'm sitting at about a 10.4 right now. So the game's in good shape. I got to play Chambers Bay, which is probably our featured course in Washington State before I went up there, and just been trying to get as much golf and work done this summer because the weather has just been beautiful.
Yeah,
it's been.
And at least you didn't almost kill yourself with a 4-iron like I did over the weekend. I swung through, and literally the club all of a sudden felt way too light, and then the club head landed right next to me. So might have swung a little too hard on that 4-iron, just saying.
So Trav, just in as hilariousness. So I'm exactly the same. So I started out righty. I didn't know any better. Are you a lefty golfer now, or do you?
No, I had
righty?
Actually, my partner at the facility is Bryson DeChambeau's caddy, Greg Bodine. He's become a good friend of mine. So we made a bet last year. If I didn't get to single digits, I would switch to left-handed because my club head speed, my swing looks more athletic. I just struggle to make consistent contact. So in my brain, long term, I'd be better off left-handed. Ego really wanted to prove to myself that I could break that 10 handicap and survive another couple of years as a righty. And I've seen as the work has progressed and the more I've learned and become to understand about the golf swing, there's some similarities of baseball, but when you're swinging with the opposite hand, the athletic ability, the ceiling isn't quite as high. So I've been grinding through it, sticking righty for now. And, been shooting low 80s here the last couple of weeks and had some good runs in some tournaments. So I can't complain.
My one son is a 4.5. So he's only been really going hard for a year, which is amazing to me. I'm about a 12. It's such a great sport. And if are you up in the Washington State area all the time now?
For the most part, I fly down to Mexico. My wife's from down there, so I spend a decent amount of time in Cabo every year. I play golf down there.
Maybe I'll have to hit you up, and I'll drag my kid down there, and we were actually going to go play Chambers coming up here in a little bit. So get out there and whack a few. Anyways, back to baseball.
I digress. So you mentioned you were back in the city. What was the vibe walking around? Obviously, you're there for a Jays Care event, and you're hearing nothing but how this current team has been. I literally quoted that went from flop to first, and that's really what it kind of has become over the last few weeks. What did you soak up as a former Blue Jay as what the vibe on the city is right now for this team?
Everything I dreamed of when I was playing there. A city that's really fired up about the boys playing well. You could sense the energy around the ballpark. We stayed close to the ballpark, so you could really see the crowd funneling in and out before and after the games. Obviously, going to the bars and restaurants, you see Blue Jays jerseys all over the place. Got to hang out with a couple of the guys that played on those, I think, 15, 16 teams that made the playoffs. So, getting the royal treatment when you're walking around the city and when you're with those guys, and then being able to not make it to a game, but talk to some guys who are around the clubhouse and just get a sense of what's going on inside there, the leadership and the kind of the culture that they've built over the course of the season. It sounds like a great group to be with. And I don't miss playing baseball, but I miss being with the boys when you're making that push.
Yep. Liz, it looked like you had a question brewing.
Yeah, I just thought, I've heard how important is chemistry in winning. And I also have a second half a question, okay? Travis, what happens when you have a pitcher who blows a save, right? What's the vibe in the clubhouse after? So it's a 2-part question.
So first off, the chemistry aspect, I think, is probably the most overlooked aspect of what it takes to win, because you can have great players and bad chemistry and still get away with it, but you're not going to go as deep as you want. Big experience I had in Pittsburgh was the cultural shift that we made in that clubhouse after busting in 12 and then making a run into the wild card for 13, 14, 15. It really takes the clubhouse leaders to galvanize that clubhouse of guys and really insulate yourself, because as we're talking on a podcast right now, there's a million voices out there talking about the Jays, talking about the wins, talking about the losses, who's struggling, the blown save. We'll get into that in a sec. But I think the more you can insulate yourself from that noise and just feed off of each other every single day, it really leads to the success on the field, because there's so many distractions from social media to the interviews you got to do before and after the game that can really take you out of your process and what you're trying to do collectively as a group. And I always talk about the clubhouse as an energy field, and you got guys who add to that, and you got guys who drain from it. It seems like the culture and the leadership in that clubhouse has got things rolling. And again, it's mid-July. We're entering the end of July. We still got 2.5 almost months of baseball left. So it's also maintaining that mindset that if you do blow a save, or if you do go on a 3 or 4 game skid, everybody else is going to panic. The coaches, the front office, the media, everybody who's talking about the Jays is going to panic, and we're going to start poking holes and everything. But that's where you really got to lock down and almost go with the armadillo, just, kind of wrap up with that shell and just say, you know what, no matter what happens, we're playing for each other each and every night. And the second part of that with the save, if a closer has been really consistent and it's a blown save, you know what? That's baseball, right? It's the same way we make an error in the field, or we strike out in a big situation with guys in runner scored position. Over the course of the 162 game, that's going to happen a lot, as long as the closer is not consistently struggling. And I haven't followed closely enough to really weigh in on the specifics of what the Jays experience. But if your closer has a bad game or two, everybody's trying to rally around him and let him know, like, hey, we're going to pick you up. You pick us up. It's got to be that kind of mindset, versus if you're really questioning if your closer can come in and get the job done. That's where it can start to play into the mental side of things for guys, where you get that feeling like, oh no, here it's going to happen again. And those are the things we really try and avoid as professionals, is buying into that mindset where things start to snowball and you can just pick each other up after a bad game or two and get back on the horse.
I feel like Hoffman's done that really well. Travis, you probably, as you said, you probably haven't seen it, but he had a real rough go for a little while there. And, I think back to the golf euphemisms, I think he had the yips for a bit. And the funny thing is to the general public, like when they see this, and Liz, this to your question as well, is these guys are missing their pitches by 1/4 of an inch. And it goes from a beautiful strikeout to one that they have to pick up out of the parking lot. Like, that's the level of the hitters that these guys are going up at. And I mean, you leave one up 2 inches or down 2 inches, the guy walks or he hammers it. It's a really fine line. And, as I've been, watching more and more and more about the professional swing and the professional, just the whole thing, it's incredible to me. The smallest of change, the smallest of anything can make such a massive difference. And I feel like, the Jays have had it in spades this year, where they've been picking each other up where others have fallen. It's hard when he's the last guy out there and gives one up. But, the Yankees are a hell of a team, and they're going to keep punching you in the side until you go down. It's 0-0 right now, isn't it? My TV's on, but I can't see it from my palatial seating at the official podcast table. But
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, Jason. The closer's the one that unfortunately ends up wearing it, because they are literally left holding the bag in a loss in that situation. But if you look at, like, last night, just across the board, 4 home runs, and you had mentioned a game of inches, because those pitches that Mad Max threw last night were literally just misses, and you could see when he let go of it before the swing even happened. He was upset, and he lets it go, and he goes, and swearing and everything, and you could just see it on his face that something bad was going to happen. And then Cody Bellinger tagged him up really bad last night. 2 doubles from Cody Bellinger and a home run. So Belly was all over Max Scherzer, and then Ben Rice getting on Hoffman at the end of the game there in the 9th inning. Hoffman, I think I was reading that he had 7 consecutive strikeouts over the 3 previous outings. So he literally struck out the side 2 games in a row. And then the game before that, he had another one. And so that's 3 innings of work. And last night, sometimes it just happens.
Yeah,
Travis, did you ever have anybody who was just like, I mean, you look back at some of the closers that have played in the league. Like, I don't even know if Mariano Rivera had a pulse. Like, he never, who was the most like switch off guy that you ever played with?
That I played with, Jason Grilli and Mark. Jason Grilli and Mark Melanson in Pittsburgh. First year was Grilli. I think first year or two was
Grilly's
Grilly,
an
and then it
animal.
was Melanson. Yeah, and he went up to
Jesus,
Toronto
I
after
know.
that. Yeah, but I mean, you gotta be crazy in that role, and just the whole bullpen back then really had it locked down. I played with BJ Ryan after he had Tommy John surgery, so he really kind of just struggled physically to be consistent. Great teammate, great guy, but obviously didn't have the career that he wanted to have at that point in Toronto. And then thinking ahead, facing guys like Mariano Rivera, there's just that sense of defeat, right? And you're trying to overcome that mental mindset as a player. I think the only hit I got off of Mo was a bunt single over him in front of A-Rod, an older, slower version of A-Rod, and I just dropped one in there. And then I'd say the majority of the other at-bats were either a strikeout or one of those swings where you see the fastball and you swing and you're like, I crushed that, and then all of a sudden your barrel's flying into the infield because the ball moves 18 to 24 inches across the plate. So yeah, him, Aroldis Chapman, I faced him early on in his career with the Cincinnati Reds. I remember when he learned how to throw a breaking ball, and we're just kind of looking at each other like, well,
What are we gonna do with that?
hang in there,
What's
bud.
that?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and then faced Papelbon too. When I was with the Blue Jays, he was another guy, man, that you just late in the game, the energy of Fenway, just the way he knew how to pitch up in the zone before it really became a thing that analytics is driven now. So facing those guys when they're on and they're executing pitches, you're just waiting and hoping they make a mistake, or you get lucky and you clip one that you're not supposed to hit.
Yeah. I think that was the best retirement gift I think that Mariano Rivera got, was the Minnesota Twins gifted him basically a retirement rocking chair that was made out of all splintered and broken bats from his cutter.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I can see what you mean. You think you got one barreled up and that thing just swoops right into where you're, especially for a lefty like you, right into where you're going to be trying to put it in the kitchen, but it is what it is. So that's no fun. So, Liz, it looked like you had a question right before Jason hopped in with that one. Before I give a couple from the fan chat here.
No, I was just thinking, like, as a hitter, how do you adjust? How does it take you to adjust to this insanity? Like,
I was talking about somebody.
Guessing?
Yeah. I mean, 95 back in the day was a big deal. Now it's 100, right? And now you're seeing the Mizorowski kid, I think is his name, with the Brewers. He pitched against the Mariners the other night. You're pumping 100, 101, 102 as a starter. You're used to seeing that out of the back end of the bullpen towards the end of my career. Again, early in my career, 95 was a big deal. So anybody who could touch 95 to 98 was like, they're the Ched blowers in the league. And now that's pretty standard across the board. That's like the 90 miles an hour back of the day. So it really is. I think the hitters, you've seen how the numbers have declined across the board. Team averages are down. I mean, significantly down. Hitting has gotten exponentially harder. And I just, give credit to all those guys who are doing it at a high level still in the major leagues. I think Andrew McCutchen, that guy's been playing for 16, 17 years now and still doing it. I watched him back here in Seattle when they came to town, and he's getting on top of 95, 97 mile an hour fastballs up in the zone. So I think as time goes along, right, you see it, you become more accustomed to it, but it's taking away time to be able to pick up a slider or a cutter or a turbo, whatever they're throwing. So it really puts the emphasis on the hitter to have a game plan and understand kind of where the ball is coming out of, what the ball is doing, and how to attack the areas of the plate or the zone that you're going to do the most damage in, and really sitting on a pitch until you have to battle.
Good deal.
That's cerebral, man. That is very cerebral.
Yeah. Baseball game's a game of failure, right?
Yeah, it really is. It's not getting any easier either for the hitters, at least.
No, Jesus. And isn't there a kid down in Anaheim or somewhere that was averaging 104 the other? Like, I mean, he's throwing 104 like over and over and over again, like it's nothing.
Which was a record-setting pitch 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wild,
I mean,
man.
Travis, have you ever watched the documentary Fastball?
I don't think I have. No.
If you get a chance, it's like it talks about such a different part of the fact, like it's basically Verlander, and he's talking about his Tommy Johns and how the increase in velocity. But then they go to like Goose Gossage and some of these other like just nightmare. But like Gossage was a nightmare. Like his hat was flying off. You had no idea where the ball was going. And my favorite was watching like George Brett and a few others talk about how frightened they were in the box against him. Where like Bob Gibson, there's a really good quote where Bob Gibson, I guess he hit 3 batters in a game and he was known for it. He hit guys all the time. And the guy that's interviewing him said, Bobby, we thought you were going to hit the fourth batter when you came in on the inside there. He's like, no, if I wanted to hit him, I would have hit him. And he's just like flat deadpan, like, 97 miles an hour in on your trying to break a rib. But I mean, I don't know how we had there's two kids here in Vancouver, both of which one's in grade 11, if you can believe this. And they played against each other the other night. One plays for the Langley Blaze, one plays for the North Shore Twins. Average fastball is 97 from both of them. And it was like watching two tigers fight. Devastating breaking stuff on both of them. And I'm talking when you're 6 feet away from it, 8 feet away from it, 97 feels like 100. It might as well be going 4,000 miles an hour. Like it was in the glove so fast out of the hand. And I was there with my kids who are 14. And I was like, how many of those do you think you could catch up to? And they were like, give me an hour and I'll catch one. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the confidence, right? Of like you said, the bat just needs to get on the plane. And then the hands just have to get fast enough to get there.
Yeah, it's timing, right? And the more you see it, you should be able to start to gain some kind of the timing mechanism of when you're picking up the pitch and when you're swinging. Again, when they have devastating breaking stuff, that adds a little wrinkle into the plan of just trying to get on time for the fastball. But I think as I progressed throughout my career and started facing more guys throwing 95 plus, was able to have success later on in my career, mostly in the minor leagues, being able to just hunt that fastball and understand when guys' secondary pitches aren't landing for strikes. But I think that, the pitchers have gotten such an advantage now with the analytics that are available from where their extension release points at, because you got a guy who can throw. I was the kid from the Brewers. They were talking about his extension is like even further down the mound, right? So that's giving you less time to pick up the pitch. And then you got guys who have deception, so they're hiding the ball behind their shoulder. Like Madison Bumgarner was one of those guys that comes to mind. And then, again, you're trying to game plan the best you can as a hitter with the understanding that these guys are very well prepared in what their stuff does and how to use it most effectively. They still have to go out and execute, right? There's still a human element. We were talking about the Jays closer earlier, where you get stuck in your head and not in your body. And that's when you can really start to feed off of the mistakes. It's almost like you sense blood in the water as a shark. You see a pitcher out there struggling, you're kind of licking your chops to get up there and face him. And on the flip side, when a guy's got a save streak and just been blowing everybody's doors off, you're just like, man, I hope I get something to hit here, and just try and battle as the best you can.
So I'm even going to throw you another wrinkle, because apparently this is becoming a thing for a couple of minor league guys that have gotten drafted in the last few years. Have you seen this kid that's in the Seattle Mariners organization that is a switch pitcher?
Yeah, ambidextrous pitching.
Ambidextrous, throwing the ball 100 miles an hour from each side.
Well,
so Travis, imagine getting into that dugout or into that batter's box. You step in the first at bat, he's throwing lefty against you, and then he just goes, you know what? I'm going to mess with you. And I was on the right side the second time you come up to the plate. It's like facing two different pitchers.
Yeah, I would imagine they'd stick left on left. Just looking at my career numbers, they got a better advantage on that side. But I do think it's the ability to do that, right? I saw a couple of switch pitchers. Pat Venditti, I think, was the guy of kind of our era who first started to do that.
Was he on your team? He was a Blue Jay for a little bit.
I played against him a lot in the minor leagues. I think he came over to the Jays after I was long gone. But I mean, yeah, the game's evolving. The pitching side of things is really taking the lead compared to the hitting, and the conversations I have with major league hitting coaches and coaches is there's so much information, but hitting, it's such a natural athletic thing, right? Where you can be thinking about all these mechanics or trying to think about three different pitches, and you lose that ability just to be able to see and react. And I think you hear these cliches, but when you got guys that are locked in and they're hitting bombs, they might be sitting on a pitch or hunting a pitch, but at the end of the day, when they're up there, they're not thinking about where their hands are, when they're starting their load, when their leg kick's coming down. I mean, these are all things, just like in golf we were talking about earlier, Jason, we get stuck in our head, man. We're trying to think about crushing something or where my hands are at in the swing. So I try and apply those things that I learned through failure in baseball as my golf career is, just steadily rising into the local area here, just trying to compete in the net events. But it's interesting because when you're in those pressure situations, whether you're the pitcher or the hitter, there's these skills, right? The skills that we have to develop as human beings to be able to slow the game down, slow life down, get back out of our head, into our body, and start to do things with the natural ability that we have, and not try and be a robot.
Yeah. The movie Bull
Travis,
Durham's popping into my head right now.
Yeah,
Like, don't think
I know.
meat, just throw.
Throw.
Is what the pitchers got to worry about.
Travis, do you think that, like, I mean, we've obviously seen a massive resurgence for George Springer this year. Do you think that that's George's biggest advantage, right? He seems to be able to hit any pitch. It doesn't matter if it's a slider, a cutter, a curveball, a changeup, a fastball. He's just mashing everything. So do you think that he's kind of just what you were talking about there, where it's just shut it off? You trust your stuff and read the pitch as it's coming?
Yeah, and everybody has like both sides of the coin, right? You got that dog that just is out there getting after it every single day, and doesn't matter what they throw you. It doesn't matter if you swing at 3 sliders the next at bat, in your mind you're going to get them, versus the other side of the coin where it's like, oh, I just swung at a bad pitch. Now I'm scared to swing at the next pitch, right? And you see this a lot in professional sports, where you kind of see two different versions of guys. And a lot of my career, right, I was on the wrong side of the coin, really stuck in my head, really trying to be perfect with mechanics or impress people with what I was doing. Instead of just, you know what, F it, I'm going to go out there and play the game and have fun the way I did as a kid. And I think those are the challenges that everybody faces at the highest level, and even in the youth levels, is just being able to go out there and play the game, because we train and we have all this information, we have great coaching around us, but you have to simplify things and find what works for you individually. And I think that's the biggest challenge with hitting, is they haven't really cornered the concept of how do we individualize this a little bit more than what we try to do, I think, with a lot of organizations, is cookie cutting or overloading guys with information. I know that, has been a big breakthrough for Alexander Kirk this year. I was talking to the assistant hitting coach a few months ago, and just kind of what the shift's been. And it's just like, man, we just had to simplify it, right? We just had to be able to find exactly what he needs and nothing more, and let him go out there and let his athletic ability take over.
I'm curious about that, because it seems that like we had, I don't know, but the last hitting coach seemed more restrictive in like what he thought people should do. And they became, like, I know with Barger, he was more self-conscious about what he was doing, and he was less, I don't know, natural. So I guess, like, how do you strike that? How do you strike the play like you did when you were a kid, have a good time, but here's some hot tips on how to be better that you won't be too in your mind about? Like, what does that look like?
It's a cliche process, right? You gotta love the grind. You gotta love the process. And I think being around it and experiencing it at the highest level, when you're convicted in your process and you know what drills you need, right, to prepare yourself for the game. And we were joking about this with Russ and Smokey and a few other guys. It's like BP gets so blown out of proportion, and we have such big egos, right? When we step on the field and there's fans walking around and you're hitting in a group with a guy who's just launching balls in the third deck, and you're like, all right, I got to start doing this. Where some of the best hitters, you hear Paul Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, they talk about just hitting line drives to second base. And that was really early in my career, was a big focus for me. It was just line drives over the shortstop's head. Once I felt locked in there, I might open up and start launching balls. But the second half of my career, I was chasing that, right? I was chasing the ability to elevate to the pull side instead of being able to do it naturally, and understanding that the line drives over the shortstop's head when you're facing a 45-mile BP pitcher gets me in a place to where I can then confidently extend the bat out and hit the ball inside. And then it comes down to approach too. Timing being the most important, what pitch you swing at, if you're getting your swing off, but allowing your athletic ability to adjust on off-speed pitches and stay through the zone with your barrel and drive things to the middle of the field. And again, this is an approach that worked for me, could work for the next guy, could not work for the next 4. And I think that's the challenge that these coaches have at the highest level, because you're dealing with the best in the world that have big egos, that have the fear of failure, that have a lot of these things kind of baked into the experience. And I think the best coaches learn how to connect with the player first and build that trust, and then be able to help them navigate the daily grind of executing their routine. If there's a little something extra they need because there's a specific area of their game they're trying to work on, that's great. But I know Corbin Carroll, who's a Northwest guy and had an unbelievable rookie season. It's been well documented now. He spent an entire offseason trying to hit the pitch that they're trying to execute on him. And it kind of got him out of his natural ability. And then he's gone back to kind of get back to what makes me great, and allow them to try and challenge me in certain situations, and be confident enough that my hands are going to get there and I'll scratch out my hits. But it's tough to execute, right? As a pitcher, you're not always going to hit your spots, and you wait out for those mistakes and you get your pitch and you're convicted in what you're doing. I think that frees you up to go out there and just compete. Whereas a lot of us as athletes, we get stuck in this idea we have to be perfect. We gotta polish every blemish in our swing. And it's like, even the best hitters, man, they have holes, right? Mike Trout has holes. Freddie Freeman has holes, but they are just convicted and consistent with their process and their mindset every time they step in the box.
Not
Did
too
you have
sure how
any-
many holes Freddie Freeman has in his swing these
Yeah,
days.
not too many.
It's on fire.
Travis, did you have like one of the things that we've been trying to get the boys to do more of? What was your pre-pitch like when you got into the box? Like, did you anchor your back foot, touch the plate 3 times? Like, what did you do when you got into the box?
I was back foot scrape out 4 to 8 times, depending on 8 times usually the first pitch, and then 4 times in between, or second or third at bat, I should say. I was tap the plate, kind of whistle the bat around, and then get set. I think the biggest piece of advice I can give to people, and if you watch these games, the breath, right? The breath is what anchors you back into your body. And when we are sitting there worrying about all these other things, it becomes a mindful, a less, what's the way I want to put this? You start to think about all these things instead of just doing them naturally. So the breath for me was a big key. You see this with pitchers, you see this with hitters. They take that breath, it brings it back into their body, and now, okay, I'm picking up the ball, or I'm picking up my target, and I'm executing my pitch. And that's a great way for young hitters to understand. Just because you take that breath doesn't mean you're going to get a hit every single time, right? But the more consistent you become with this, the more that you allow yourself to be an athlete, and then you can go back and evaluate and say, okay, did I swing at a good pitch? Was I on time? And did I hit the ball hard? Because these are all things that don't always show up in the stats. I know now we got more analytics to show the chase rate and the hard hit contact rate and all that stuff, which I think has value in the sport. But being able to do that without thinking about it, right? That's always the challenge when analytics are brought into play.
Okay. Liz, you got any questions before I dive into the few we got here from our
No,
our
I
biggest
really
fans?
I really like the comment though about the grounding breath, right? I feel like it does, and even it's true. It's like if there's like studies that show if you just take like 3 really, really deep breaths before you do anything, it just cools you, gets everything less nervous. So that's, I've never thought about the breathing, and I'm sure that like there are times when you forget to breathe, right? You got a lot going on, you're concentrating, you just forget to breathe.
Yeah, well, I mean, most of us do a lot of things, right? Subconsciously, daily, driving, breathing, eating. We're not thinking about every bite, every taste, every. So, again, this is without going too deep down the rabbit hole. I think it's applicable to anybody listening. I do speaking engagements. I get nervous standing up in front of a couple hundred people or a couple thousand people. I'm sure for you guys, there's a routine, pre-show routine for you. People who are going into big meetings, 4x4 breathing is probably my biggest unlock. Right, 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale. That's what I do every day when I get in the cold tub and it's 42 degrees and my body's going into panic mode. It's like, how do I slow my heart rate down? Breathing. And I'll give a shout out to the late Doc Holliday. I remember going into the spring training clubhouse or training room, and Doc was one of those guys you just don't talk to unless he talks to you, and you're very mindful of what you do around Doc. So I go in there and I was rehabbing an injury, shocker, and he was in there just grinding the cold tub, hot tub contrast, and he started talking to me, and I'm just like, oh man, Doc Holliday's talking to me, and I'm like, hey man, how do you do this 42 or 38 degree water? He's like, well, I talked to a Navy SEAL and he told me that breathing is the most important part of this, right? So that was the first time I heard it, probably 15, 20 years ago. And then as I've been working with and starting to do this now on my side of things is really helping people understand breathing's free, right? Breathing exercises are free. There are apps that you can help train yourself with. It's kind of like meditation. Again, not for everybody, but I think that the breathing aspect, all of us as humans have to breathe, and being able to learn how to leverage that for good is a skill we should all be learning.
That's awesome. And it's funny you mentioned that Holiday not talking to him thing. My dad and I literally were in like a coffee shop not too far from the ballpark, and we noticed it was him. We're like, do we talk to him or not? And then he actually comes over and goes, you guys aren't from around here, are you? And then we had a quick talk and he went on his way.
Hey, that's cool. You probably got more words out of him than half the guys that ever played with him. I was lucky. Doc took a liking to me early in my career, and even though he was a man of few words, I had a special relationship, limited but special, and a guy that I always respect because that dude just got after it, and what he did on the field was a product of the process, right? We were talking about earlier. That guy did not waver every single day. He was locked in on what he needed to do. And I think, of all the guys that I played with, he's the number one dude when it comes to who is the most consistent, who is the most focused, who was a guy that just did not waver from his routine and understood what it took for him to be great.
Yeah. Rumors have it that routine involved running around the 500 level, like he was doing high altitude training. Is that a true fact?
I don't know if I heard the high altitude aspect, but yeah, I mean, I remember in spring training as young guys, right? We would try and get to the field early, and we wanted to make a good impression on the vets. And Jay Pierre and CB and I were roommates for multiple years in spring training, and we'd always kind of race to the field, 5:30, who could set their alarm first and get out of bed. And we think, we're walking in there kind of with our chest puffed out, thinking we're going to be the first guy to the locker room. And sure enough, Doc comes out of the weight room and just kind of gives you the nod, like, "Oh, you're here? You're finally here?" And you're just like, man, I was trying to win the race here, and I couldn't do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's
He's finishing up his second workout, and you're just strolling in.
Yeah.
That's too funny. So I want to go to our one-time major friend and contributor on the chat here in the cheap seats, our buddy Michael Borland. Jason, I think you know him, but at the end of the day, apparently he's got a new goal. He's trying to make sure he's here for every episode. Yeah. So that's a good goal. We like having you, buddy, and we love having you in the chat. So he's got a couple of questions for us in the chat, and there's 147 of you live that I can see right now. That's not on the TikTok to my left. Hit us up with his questions. Fill up this chat thing. We got Travis for a few more minutes. We're going to make sure we have a good time here as the remaining of the show has. Funny enough, one that you mentioned there as far as how you self-improve and everything like that. So Michael submitted this question, and it was more or less, what would you tell your young self after signing your first contract between what you've learned, obviously throughout your tenure of what you know today?
Don't tie your identity to just being a baseball player. And that's something we focus on a lot with my company now, is helping educate parents, coaches, and players on how this happens in youth sports, especially somebody like myself who had a ton of success through the amateur circuit, and then becoming a first-round pick was a culmination of a lot of hard work. And for me, I started to believe, right? I started to read the articles. I started to read the headlines. I started to believe what other people were saying about me instead of knowing who I was and what I brought to that sport. And it's easier said than done, but I would tell that 18-year-old version of me is, you know what, no matter what happens, man, you're going to be fine. Baseball and the business of baseball is unpredictable, and our ego likes to get ahead of ourselves and say 10 years, 100 million, franchise player. I mean, shit, when I was 18 years old, man, I thought I was going to be a cornerstone player for the Blue Jays for the rest of my career, and I was fired up about that. But you start getting too far into the future, you start dwelling on the past, you lose your ability to be present, and that identity formation for me had started much younger than that age, but I was really what really rocked my world, right? When they sent me down for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time somebody's ever told me I'm not good enough to be on a team, where a lot of kids experience that at a much earlier age. So it was something I struggled with. I've talked about, a lot, is how the mental side of things really weighs on you whether it's in sports or in business, right? We have our titles, we have our salaries, we have, all these things, all these external things that we think are what make us who we are, when it's really what we bring to the table every single day with our mindset and our ability to connect and build relationships with people.
Travis, what do you think? Something that you just said there, and we've spoken about this before. My kids, in Canada, travel ball isn't as psychotic as it is down in the U.S., but do you think that one of the problems with the travel ball scene on whole is that a lot of these teams are formed out of kids that don't make other teams? Like they're formed basically out of four, so the kid who gets cut from that team can effectively play on a less quality team. So like you're saying, being able to fail and do these things and get your way through it. Do you think that that's creating an issue that these kids, when they do hit a certain point like you did, where they're like, you're not the best second baseman here. In fact, you're the fourth best, see ya. Like, does it create a real bad situation, do you think, mentally for these kids?
I think you have organizations who have multiple teams at the same age, right? And you have what you talked about. You have kids who aren't good enough to make one team, and then they go and make another team. And I think what we are focusing on now, as we're building out partnerships with travel ball organizations and softball organizations and eventually other sports, is really working from the top down, right? With the leadership and the board, and then to the coaches. What is the assignment? What are the core values? What are we really focusing on for each level and each team at each level? And how is that being communicated to parents? Because again, we as parents, myself included, we create a lot of drama because we have a bias and emotional attachment to our kids' success and failure on the field. A lot of us have unrealistic expectations for our kids, or we are hoping for things that our kids don't even want, right? So that a lot of these things play into it. But I think as we learn how to support our kids in reframing failure as a learning opportunity and understanding if you're not the best second baseman on, you're the fourth best and you get cut. Well, how do you look in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do to get better at this? And do I want to do that? Or do I just want to play for fun? And I think that's where, again, the idea of playing for fun gets lost in these younger age groups, because now it's 7, 8, 9, 10 travel competitive right out the gates, where it used to just be Little League and, a handful of kids make the all-star team. So you're creating this dynamic at the younger ages where kids are again, that identity formation from 0 to 10 is a very fragile thing. And we've completely overlooked that with the idea of winning state championships and the idea of where our kids ranked in the state, without understanding, like I said earlier, having that label is a whole piece of rock that you carry around on your shoulder. And we're going to watch the Little League World Series here in a couple of weeks. It's like those kids are going to step on the field for the rest of their lives, and they're going to be labeled as a kid who played in the Little League World Series. It's just like a kid who commits to a university or a Division I school really early, or at any point, right? That's a whole nother level up. And what a lot of parents don't understand is we're really building that identity of who we are on stilts. And I've talked about this before. It was why me getting sent down was something I never really recovered from in my career until I started going through my own therapeutic process and unpacking at the end. I was like, man, I blame so many people and I carried so much shame, right? Every time I stepped on the field in AAA, I was like, oh, that in my brain, everybody's looking at me like that was the number one prospect. That was a top 10 prospect in baseball. That was a kid that played. I mean, shit, Clayton Kershaw just finishing year 16 or 17 right now, pitching in the All-Star game. We're the only two 20-year-olds in the league at that time, right? So I look at guys like Kirsch who've had these unbelievable careers, and he was a good youth player, but you can tell his foundation, right? It was much different than what mine was, and I think that's the thing we're trying to really hammer with parents, coaches, and organization is we got to understand where we're at, what the goal is, what are we really trying to get out of this? And I think for these younger age kids, are they still going to have this love and this joy for playing baseball when they're 14, 15, 16? Or are we so focused on training them like professional athletes and playing to win at all costs with the mental, emotional, physical risks that are on the table that we're much more aware of now? These are the things we're really trying to get across to the adults who are making these decisions and really guiding the organization and building the culture.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that part up, because we actually had a similar conversation with Bob File, who's been a regular on the show. You might have met him at one point, but I think your guys' careers were just outside of each other in the Blue Jays uniforms. But he's very, very proud of the fact that he worked his way up to being that Major League Baseball player. And because he was not on an 8x radar, the Division II guy, and worked his ass off to be able to get to where he was. So there's that balancing point to what you mentioned for the foundation and how you get there. And it's interesting how everybody gets to those places. And I think the core value that you need to take away is what you mentioned, and along with the kids can't lose the fun part, because that's the part I even see people my age at 40 in the 40s playing freaking slow pitch softball down the street that everybody thinks it's game 7 of the World Series. And the guy that's, calling the pitches or calling the outs and stuff is literally making like $15 to be there. And they're yelling at the guy.
Yep, umpires and referees is another one. Another one. We shot a video workshop on that, and we have a short form book coming out here in the next couple of months on umpires and referees, because it's a representation of something that's completely out of our control, and so much of life is out of our control, and how we respond to that. We've all heard this, but to actually go into that situation with that understanding, especially in youth sports, it's a really unbelievable teaching moment for us as the adults to be able to regulate our emotions and maintain that perspective, so that our kids can actually see us modeling that behavior, instead of us losing our cool and freaking out on the guy who's either a volunteer or making $15 to do it. Like this is life, guys. We're trying to teach kids life skills through sports. And when we ride and die with every call and every win and every loss, we're really creating that achievement-based mindset, as well as a victim mindset, which I know any parent listening right now, we're not trying to raise victims and sunflowers. Like, we want kids who can go out there and thrive in the world that it's going to bring all these things that are out of their control and develop grit through going through those experiences and overcoming them, instead of just saying, I either have to get it or I'm nothing.
Yeah, it's such a like we were just, so we had our last practice before going into the provincials, and Chris Randall, who's the head coach, was just here trying to get some stuff printed off. I don't know if you guys heard him or not.
I heard you're shuffling.
Printers on the fritz, so the assistant coach gets the duties. Anyways, so but like, rather than having a full practice with everything, we cut the practice short and we played fungo golf. And the kids absolutely loved it. I mean, it was probably that hour of eating pizza and playing fun go golf, because we have an interesting, age gap on our team. We have kids who've just turned 14 and kids who are turning 16, basically. So, I mean, we all know that boys and girls at that age, I mean, it's not an easy mental age. It's not an easy any kind of age. So it was fun last night to see, some of the older kids messing with the younger kids, and some of the older kids acting like young, like young kids again. And so, to anybody out there, it's you have to take some of the pressure off. It's just, it is a game. It's still called a game until they change it to the business of baseball as it goes, or the business of hockey. It's still the game of both of those things. And so I understand winning's important, but I mean, we're starting to see it right now. Like the best 15-year-old kids in the province, there's lots of them. And, some of them peaked a year ago, and some of them are yet to peak 3-4 years from now. And I think that's another thing that is really hard to explain to these kids is it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And you mentioned the physical development as well as the mental development. The brain's not fully developed till 24, 25 years old. We know that, right? And we have expectations of these 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. I coach 8, 9-year-old kids, right? Where it's like, it's a constant reminder in a voice that I have to replay in my head consistently, because they're just going to do stuff that you're like, why are you doing this? And
there's some of my favorite videos, by the way.
Yeah, we as the adults are just like, how do they not understand this? And I'm still guilty of this, right? A big reason why I started this company is because I need this work as much as any other parent, right? It's building that community and that understanding that we're all going through this together. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to forget in those heated moments where our kids are actually at developmentally. But the more we can build that foundational understanding and approach this with grace and understanding of what our kids are actually experiencing, and then leaning into that type of practice, man, that fires me up to hear that. Fungo golf and pizza. We had a tough season this year for the 8-9U Marauders. We were grinding with, we were an underdeveloped team from a baseball skill and experience standpoint. And there was kind of a growing pressure amongst our group of kids where it's like, man, we're not winning any games and this doesn't feel like fun. So we spent the first 30 minutes of practice. We had popsicles, right? The kids are fired up because we got popsicles, and we sat down the best we could and stayed still and had a conversation. But it was kind of part of the deal. Like, you want your popsicle, we're going to have a little talk. And the talk was just, hey guys, I want to hear one positive thing about a teammate. And so everybody goes around, and then I want to hear one moment this year where you felt scared. So everybody could hear, right? Every single person here has had that moment where they felt scared, where they felt pressure, whatever that emotion is. We got to normalize these things, because even the best experience that on some level, right? But their ability to get the train back on the tracks, to be able to get out of their head and back into their body is really what separates them, because physically there wasn't a lot of difference between me and other guys that hit 25, 30 home runs a year. It's just getting through the mental experience and the fear of failure, the fear of getting sent down, all these things that start to play as narratives in our mind. Our kids are experiencing that in youth sports. And for us to be able to come alongside them and help them develop those skills and develop that understanding of what failure really means and how we grow and how we learn from those types of experiences is really what develops grit, instead of just being a hard ass and yelling at your kid every time they make a mistake, which is what many of us experienced as kids, right? So we repeat that behavior. And again, I'm not trying to demonize parents wanting to have a firm boundary with their kids. I think that's important, but I think we oftentimes as parents lose track of where our emotions are at when we're trying to instill this knowledge into our kids that this is how you're supposed to behave. And it's like, whoa, you're not even doing that as the parent right now. What kind of example are we? Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah. The best mentors, managers, bosses, whatever I want to call it in my life, career, everything, have always been the ones that understood one simple thing. They can't do the work for you, but they got to be able to provide the person the tools to be able to be successful, right? So those are exactly the mantras and the pieces of what you're talking about, Travis, and I couldn't agree with you more. You're trying to give them, hey, this is everything you got in your toolbox. They might not use every tool, but here's all the stuff for you to work with and be better at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
So, Liz, I can see the gears moving before I dive into one more question, and then we're going to wrap this thing up.
I just want to comment that, like, after spending a week with children in between the ages of 8 and 11, it's true, the brains are not developed.
Maybe that's what the gears were moving. It was really the panic and setting.
No, but you have to kind of you got to like check your shit, because it's true, their brains are not developed. So it's like, it's like, why why did you kick the couch, or why did you headbutt the cereal box? And you're just like, because you're not
Or
all
your
the
brother.
way yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, or your brother, because
usually
you're
the
not
brother.
all the way yet.
My-
And so
I still
Yeah.
think my favorite is my wife is an only child. And so we obviously have twin boys. They're 14 now. And so they can't stop beating the shit out of each other, which is hilarious because they're not trying to hurt each other. They're just trying to have fun. And my wife has no concept of it, like none. Like she's like, why did you just hit your brother? And Jet will look at my wife and just be like, well, he's right there. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you hit him? And then he'll hit him again. And then you're like,
Got a brother.
Like, yeah, it's too funny.
there's just no thinking in between. And so I don't know, let the children play, but you also have to like tell them how to be people. Wow, you guys have hard jobs. That's it. That's my update.
There it is. So first things first, Travis, obviously it's always a pleasure having you here. We got another big fan for you here. Great lessons. Love it. So also in the chat, I'm going to throw Michael's 2 questions into one because of your most recent trip to Toronto. First things first, he goes, what's a typical off day and favorite restaurants that you've had over the years when you were in Toronto or as a player? And then the other part is, this other question is, I'm going to roll into that part, is when you've been around baseball as much as you have been, I'm sure people have asked you what it was like for your time playing in Canada. What were those conversations like?
Favorite restaurant back in the day, Jacob's Company Steakhouse used to take great care of us. Barbarians, the Keg is just a classic restaurant. We actually have one here. My sister worked there in high school, so the Keg will always have a special place in my heart. And then Barrow, we've been going there the last couple of years when I go up for alumni events, and great food, take great care of us. And then the second part of that question was, remind me again.
As you've wandered around for your career and everything, people have always probably, I'm sure, asked you what it's like to play for the Blue Jays and play in Canada. What have those conversations been like?
Yeah, I think for the guys who had families, which most of the team back then were married with kids, and I was just one of a few young and single guys at the time. I think it presents more challenges with the, bag milk was a big hot topic back in the day, which I don't know if that's changed in the last 15, 20 years, but I remember hearing some of the old guys.
I don't know. During your time, I think it was during your team time, there was somebody who filmed how do I use the bag milk in between stadium, and they give you guys all of the bags, and you'd have to like figure out. Everybody would just pour it into the pitcher. That's not the way.
I think the general consensus, though, is Canadians are more friendly. They're more fun, in my opinion. And I think, for the guys with families, you obviously have customs and the challenges of traveling with young kids. So that's a whole different ballgame that I'd never had to really experience. But I think for a lot of us, I think we realize Toronto is one of the best kept secrets in North America. And I think you could pull quite a few guys who have been there, whether as visiting players or as guys who played in the city. The city itself, man, it's electric. The people there, like I said, are just other than getting chirped in the stands by the hockey fans, they're some of the nicest people. When you're walking around, you're out having dinner, you're at a bar having a drink, like the casual, just persona of people there. I just love it. And then for me, the ability to feel like you're in a big city, but still get those types of experiences, right? You go to New York, you go to Chicago, you don't really get that same vibe. So that's one of the things that I'll always hold special in my heart is the people of Toronto. And I think the fan base, now that you guys are winning or have a winning team, right, or on this path to getting back into a winning team, that was always our greatest challenge, was how do we put a winner on the field so we can just see the city light up. And I'm glad since I left, you guys have had a couple of years of that, and I'm hoping that they're able to run it back this year and give the fans something to go crazy about.
Yeah, and you guys played on some competitive teams too, but dear God, that American League East when you guys played in, it was, I think, even more vicious than it is currently right now, with the Yankees being the Yankees. We talked about Mariano Rivera, the Red Sox with all the guys that they were loaded up with. It was just all 5 teams were bashing the hell out of each other, and you guys came out on the right side of that most of the times, but it was just, you were always constantly a 10 game behind because they were running to 109 win seasons.
Yeah, the East is the beast, that's for sure. I know it's had its ebbs and flows, but Tampa Bay, the young staffs that they used to have back in the day, the Red Sox winning some World Series during their tenure, and yeah, the Yankees are the Yankees, man. So that's the division you want to find out. There you go.
Yeah. Michael agrees with you on the Keg. Just saying, go,
Love
Mike.
That. Classic chain, good steaks,
Can't
good
go
prices.
wrong with the Keg.
Yep.
Jacob's Barbarian Slaps. I was there like a couple months ago. Still good.
There you go. Good deal. So, Travis, before we dive into the thing we always end the game with here a little bit is the fact that we always do this thing called Picks to Click, but I want to make sure we give you your chance to talk about 3A athletics and everything that you're doing with all the youngsters that you've been hinting at throughout the whole entirety of the show here. So, your shameless self-promote plug, go.
Yeah, check us out, www.3athletics.com. We got free content up there. We have a premium membership that includes our books. It includes our video workshops where we take deeper dives into these pain points. But really our goal is to build a community like we talked about before. As parents with kids in sports, there is so much going on and so much pressure that we feel from so many different angles, and the financial and the energy and everything that we pour into it. So we're really trying to build a platform and a community of support and a community of education, and being able to dive into topics like performance anxiety, the car ride home, umpires and referees. I mean, these are all things we experience on a yearly basis as our kids are going through youth sports. And we're really just trying to come alongside parents and not speak down to parents. Because like I said before, I need this as much as everybody else. And I know the more that we can be vulnerable and work through these things together, that it's going to benefit the kids. It's ultimately what it's about, is giving these kids an opportunity to experience sports for what it is, and help parents and coaches and the leadership and organizations understand what we're bringing into it and how that is positively and negatively impacting our kids' experience throughout this, and the long-term effects of that too, right? We talked about my career and how youth sports and success in youth sports really set me up for failure, I guess, when it came time to really get punched in the mouth for the first time. And I take pride in grinding out the career that I did, and I've made peace with the things that have happened. But yeah, check us out at the website. We got some books that you can purchase if you don't want to do the premium content membership, but those are also available on there. And then again, we're just looking forward to building relationships with organizations and leagues, and trying to find ways that we can support the parents, the coaches, and the leadership so that they feel more equipped, right, to go out there and give the kids the best opportunity that they can.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have to do another fun talk on just that one time again over the off season again, Travis, because there's so much that we get with talking with youngsters and everything like that. And it is such a great thing what you are doing with your brand and everything, and helping all these build the community parts, to your point. And we love having you on the show. We always appreciate it. And it's always good to talk baseball with you. But before we run off, we got one little dumb game to play.
Hold on. I would be remiss if I did not mention, and maybe you can throw it up. I sent you that picture of the two scariest guys when a feathered animal is
did you
around.
check?
I mean, obviously, Ozzy Osbourne passed, a couple of days ago. Being a heavy metal guy my whole life, Ozzy was a big influence on, I was always a Sabbath guy. I it got a little weird when in the 80s, everything did. But I mean, just if you can find that picture, it's hilarious.
It is a hilarious picture, but the resolution's not going to quite do it justice, my friend. But I'll pop it up
you
here.
Put it up there, great.
Because at the end of the day, it is things. Randy Johnson with Ozzy Osbourne flipping off the camera, but there's a little slight height difference going on there.
That's who I was thinking about. That's who I was thinking about when you guys were talking about errant pitchers. I grew up watching that guy. I was like, dang, having to get in the box against him and worry about a fastball off your jaw. No, thank you.
Yeah. So the joke is, one bit the head off a bat, one blew up a seagull. So not friends of the birds.
Yes.
But he'll be missed. I know he had his ups and downs, certainly. Yeah. But it's for you kids out there, go listen to some Black Sabbath.
Yeah. And just to be this person, Ozzy, I think his last two albums were just as good as any of the ones he's ever done. And those were done in the last 7 or 8 years. It's insane how talented he was. And I guess I'm going to do my shameless self-promotion here. And Jason, if you want to join the show, my other podcast of all things nerdy on TC Random Fandom this week, guess who we're going to be talking about? I know it's shocking.
Ozzy.
But on that note, I think it's funny that we were talking restaurants, and literally our whole YouTube channel right now is talking about the Billy Miner.
The Billy Miner pie, it's free on your birthday.
It's
good pie. The keg.
Good pie on your birthday.
Now, it's Pick to Click, brought to you by the Keg. Featuring Lobster Summer.
So on that note, last week, these were the picks. And Travis, I'm going to let you pick which one of these four fine gentlemen had the best week in Toronto Blue Jays baseball since we last recorded. Obviously the All-Star break and everything, there's only been a few games, it's not too big, but we had George Springer, Alejandro Kirk, Vladdy, and Bo Bichette were the four players picked for last week's Pick to Click. Which one of those do you think had the best one? And like I said, this is actually just more or less I'm giving you the chance to pick one. It doesn't have to have any bias.
Based on pre-show conversation, I'm ruling out Vladdy, even though he hit a homer yesterday. I'm going to go with, it's got to be Springer or Kirk is my gut, but I'm going to go with, let's go with Springer.
You're going to go with Springer. Jason, that is 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row for you winning. Just saying. So Jason's on the board. Liz, you better watch out. You got to get back here a little bit more often. The lead is closing.
In Jaybird fandom, that we call that one a Kenny when you get 3 weeks or right in a row.
There you go.
Yeah, Kenny was doing that pretty well. So on that note, we're going to let our guests go first here. So Travis, for our guest spot in this equation, who is currently tied for me with last place, who do you think is going to have the best week in Toronto Blue Jays baseball before we record next Wednesday?
Let's go with Vladdy. If he hit a homer yesterday, maybe he's starting to heat up, and that's the big fella that you guys need in the middle of that lineup, pounding the baseball for the next month and 2 months.
And the best part is, Travis, that means Liz can't pick him.
Yeah, I know. That's my goal. I always pick Vladdy because, like, the way that I win this game, or I try to, is pick the best guy on the team every time I can.
Yeah, she's won 4 out of her 6 picks.
Yeah,
4 out of her 6
picks. The best way to
do it. So on that note, Jason, you won, so you get to go next. Who are you thinking?
I'm going to take Billy Miner. No, I'm kidding. You know what? I'm going to go Addie Barge. I'm going Addison Barger, baby.
Go Bam Bam.
Yeah, Bam Bam.
All right, Liz, your turn.
I'm going with Bo.
Go Bo.
Safe. Chubby Bo is a good Bo.
He's a good Bo.
I'm going with the conversation that Mr. Snider had here about Alejandro Kirk and what he's done at the plate this week or this year. And he has been just finding a way to destroy baseballs. And I can't say enough of what he's been doing at the plate, especially with 2 strikes, because that was always my freaking kryptonite when I was in the batting in college and everything. And I just can't imagine being able to catch and do what he's doing batting 300. It's just mind-boggling to me.
Will Travis, Smith is doing it too. Will Smith and him are on fire, both of them.
Cal Raleigh too. I got to shout out.
And Cal Raleigh, yeah, they're completely
to be able to do it on both sides is tough, man. It's tough.
And then he's a switch hitter.
Yeah, switch hitter, crazy.
And wild. You have 2 swings to maintain and still don the tools of ignorance. So
yes,
is what it is. So good deal. Travis, is there anything you would like to end the show on before we do wander off?
No, and I just want to say thank you guys again for sharing the platform. Thank you to all the Blue Jays fans, the few that I run into this weekend, all the nice people on X giving me some love. So wish you guys the best of luck here down the stretch. Do remember, though, these are the dog days, right? So there's going to be some ebbs and flows. Try your best not to hit the panic button or get on Twitter or whatever platform and start blowing the players up, because they're going to figure it out as long as that leadership keeps them galvanized and the boys stay healthy and keep that next man up mentality. It's exciting to see what they do heading into September and October.
Yeah, I love that mantra.
I got one thing, if you don't mind, Craig. We had quite a bit of sponsorship for our team this year that helped us get through a lot of stuff. It's helping us just, day to day, everything. It helps out so much. Everything we do, we're all volunteer coaches, so we don't take any pay or anything like that. So I wanted to shout out Cream Pony Donuts and Fried Chicken for some gift certificates and donuts. If you ever come to North Van Travel, I have to hook you up. I swear to God, it's the best chicken sandwich I've ever had. Browns and Liberty Kitchen for hooking us up. End of the line for a sweet gift basket, and Puccini's Italian for their sweet gift basket as well. It's helping out a really good group of 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds go kick some ass this weekend.
Good deal. And Liz, you being our number 1 hype woman, I do have to have you help me out with this thing that we're trying to give away, and they're not getting enough people in on it.
We're giving this away. If you like and retweet the post, it is real. It is a lovely, apparently, basketball jersey because, I guess basketball was invented in Canada by a Canadian. And then so anyway, win, retweet, look hot, show off your guns in the summer. Let's go.
Yeah, and tell us your favorite Blue Jay. I have been responding to every post in that contest. I will have some fun making goofs with whatever we talk to. And thank you for whoever commented Marco Scudero, because I love Marco Scudero.
Best pregame skit you've ever seen. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, he was the hype guy.
Him and Barrett and a few other guys. Him and Barrett would shadow box before games just to get the boys fired up. And unfortunately, we didn't make a run in the playoffs, so that never really got the attention of the media. But the skit that guy would put on, just the personality, he was unreal.
Yeah, he had your guys' home run jacket and spades just in shadow boxing. Huh? Good stuff. Well, thank you very much, Blue Jays fans. Like I said, almost 200 you still with us holding on into the show here. We greatly appreciate you. Travis, is always a pleasure, and I can't wait till we have our next baseball chit chat because it's always fun having you here. And make sure you tune in next week. We are going to have Thomas Hall, that is a baseball writer for the Toronto Blue Jays and all sorts of fun things in various different places to talk MLB trade deadline next week. So make sure you join us. It's going to be fun. And then Liz was hooking us up with a few other people that we're going to be announcing hopefully soon. We just got to get some dates.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night and go Blue Jays.
Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.
Woo!